Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to this very special episode of The Decision by EO Nashville. This is the official podcast of EO by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. We're talking about the decisions that we make through Forum, through the other experiences we have in EO, what it looks like, the ins, the outs, all the stories. And with me as always today, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Thanks again, Eric. Excited to be here on this special occasion.
That's right. I had to mention that.
Special guest podcast.
Because with me and Robert, Sameera Lowe, the queen of EO Nashville.
I thought I was the big sister of EO Nashville.
The queen, the big sister, the Eye of Sauron. If you know that reference, Middle Earth. You like the one that sees everything.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. Was it Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yeah. That wasn't my thing.
Yeah. So I get asked on a regular basis because I, go and have gone to GLC and EMP, and they're like, "How did you guys get so big?" And I said, "It's probably about 85% Sameera, maybe more.
It's the village. The village.
Well, you're a good chieftain of the village. With your steady hand, we have done amazing things. So, on behalf of the chapter, thank you very much for the hard work. You've impacted more lives than you can imagine.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. It really is. I love what I do.
I can tell.
So how did you hear about EO?
Yeah. So let's see. So 22 years ago, I started my own small company, Loud and Clear Communications. And a friend of mine, who's also a friend of Eric's, Jennifer Thomas, was with Craft CPAs, and they were a sponsor of EO at the time. And she heard that they were looking to replace the person who was in this role. And I went to a conference room full of probably 16, 18 people, didn't have any idea what I was walking into. And the rest is history. We talked, and it was just an instant connection.
What was the initial draw to the role for you?
So I was raised by entrepreneurs. And if you'd like, I can tell you a little story about that, just so you kind of know who I am and where I'm from and that kind of stuff. So you can probably tell I'm half Lebanese. And my grandfather was born in southern Lebanon in a small town called Marjayoun. And so his father left the family behind to go try to move to the United States and make money and send it back because they were starving. They had nothing. And so he did that, but before he could send the money back to get them to come over, his wife, my great-grandmother, passed away of starvation, basically. And so he started the first grocery store in Covington, Tennessee. And then my grandfather came over and kind of helped run that grocery store and start it with them. And ever since then, I've just been raised by entrepreneurs. So my grandparents had 3 boys, Joe, Jimmy, Johnny. And so the store went to my uncle. And so then my father, Jimmy, became an entrepreneur himself. And he started a business, bought a business, sold the business, always had his hand in a million different things, real estate and all kinds of stuff. So that's just what I knew growing up. And they were hard workers. I mean, grocery store is, you're on your feet all the time.
Low margins.
Huge customer service focused. Yeah. All the people in town loved him.
Which I imagine you were working in the grocery store.
Exactly. I worked in the grocery store, and then I worked for my dad. He had a wholesale company. Like if you go into a convenience store, it was like everything that what you would find in a convenience store, he sold. And I worked there probably 6 years. We were always working. If I wasn't working for the store or the wholesale, I was peddling lemonade or tomatoes or whatever. Like that's just the way we were.
Now, back then, your dad wasn't involved in some kind of mastermind or some kind of community.
No. He was, president of the Rotary. He was very involved in the chamber. he was, he got in the legislature when I was 2. He became a state representative. He lost his first race by I think 14 votes. So he learned lots of valuable lessons then. But so that was kind of his, he was president of his fraternity at UT, by the way. But that became his, fraternity, his group of people that he would probably consider his mastermind. But he didn't have anything like EO.
So you kind of had this supportive role for entrepreneurs, as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And when you heard about this opportunity, I guess the expectation you had coming in and then what actually happened, how are those two things the same or different?
Yeah. So Steve Canute was president at the time, and he said, hey, I want to interview you for this admin job. And I said, I'm not interested in an admin job. I know Eric's shocked. He's heard me say this for 19 years. But if you want me to be an executive director, I'd love to talk to you. And I don't want to do the bookkeeping. That's not my, highest and best use of myself. So we kind of carved out a role that really fit my strengths. I have kind of a marketing and PR background, customer service type of background. So it took off. And at the beginning, we had 46 members. And I remember, setting up for an event one time at the Hermitage Hotel. And, it was a speaker that was coming in, just a kind of basic learning event. But I put the name tags out and I was like, okay, bye, y'all. I'm going to the Ryman for a show. Now I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? I would never leave an event. And I did the same thing with the holiday party at Cullen's house. He was hosting the holiday party for EO. And I got it all set up and then went to my own holiday party. Now I'm like, I don't know how I did that. But, 46 members is quite different from 355.
Yeah, you've learned a lot since.
I have. And y'all, it is a lot to manage.
We have helped you grow.
Right, so absolutely. No question.
So, during the very beginning of your version of our EO and how we've radically have grown and all of that, what do you see are some common characteristics or traps that you see a lot of EO members fall into in their own growth journey?
Yeah. I think in terms of things I see in forums, things I see in the board, things I see just y'all as individuals, in terms of individuals, I see a lot of, the imposter syndrome and that kind of thing. And I'm over here going, no, y'all are amazing. It's hard for me to get my head around how you don't see how inspiring you all are. 'Cause I see it, clear as day. In forums, I see all kinds of things. Nashville loves to be the rebels, that we like to do things our own way. But when you back away from the forum rules and that kind of thing, it never works out well. You stick to what works, and Global has that nailed. And we have kind of gone around and around with different, things we should try, and it all comes back to that core rules and that kind of thing that Global has taught us. So, that's a pitfall. I think that some people think, oh, we'll just not do this or we'll not do that, and it bites them every time.
What are some big ones that you see that is a failure point when they don't follow maybe the guidelines, or not really guidelines, but boundaries maybe?
I mean, I've seen it all, I think, in 19 years. So, it's the advice giving, and it seems innocent at first, but then it bites you on the back end. Maybe if the person doesn't take the advice, then the person who gave it is upset and, impatient and, that kind of thing. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think of another example. I don't know. I think just the advice giving and when you get lax in your attendance rules, or you let people Zoom in, that was cool for a hot minute during COVID, but then we had to kind of rein that in.
Yeah.
When you're not committed and you kind of just let the bad behaviors take over, it just falls apart.
Yeah, and you're also heavily involved with when new members are looking to come in and knowing what a good EO member can be, and maybe also what a bad candidate can be. What is it? What does it look like? What's really obvious to you they're a wrong fit for EO?
If you got everything all figured out, this is not the place for you.
Yeah.
That's the biggie. I mean, it's that confidence balance with humility. I think is huge, and the desire to just continue to learn constantly, I think is paramount. And the example that I think of, and Eric, you've mentioned this too, but Arnie Malham, who y'all know, I remember when he was moderating a Catalyst forum, and it's a commitment, it's a time commitment of a year. Every month for 4 hours. But he was like, gosh, I just learned so much from these guys. And they're younger and they're, Arnie, I hope you're not listening. They're hipper or cooler or whatever. But there's so much to learn from everybody if you just kind of open your mind. And I think if a prospect doesn't have that desire to learn and grow, they're not going to be a good fit. And it's not worth adding one wrong member to blow up a forum of 8 members. Just don't do it.
That was something that when Alan Young and I were chair and co-chair of membership, we would tell prospects that if you hear all this and you think this is, touchy-feely BS, then you're not a fit.
Yeah. It's not for everybody. It's really not. And I've got a few friends out there or just acquaintances that I know of that qualify, but I know in my heart they're not a good fit. And I'm not going to do it.
So it was probably 7 or 8 years ago when, EO had been growing and Global was kind of pushing us to maybe split into a couple of different, split the chapter essentially.
Right.
And we decided, of course, not to do that. And we were having difficulty with maybe a few members getting in. Do you remember that process and Alan and I coming to you with an idea about how, and I get asked this question all the time, how did you guys get to the size that you are now?
Yeah.
We're what? What is the exact
355.
355.
Yep.
What has that resulted in?
You're talking about the houses and the life cycles and all that?
Well, the membership process. Can you go into a little bit about because we implemented this membership process, and I know you were worried about us being able to pull that off.
That, yeah.
And just
look at me now.
Yeah. What has that done for the chapter, do you think?
Yeah. So we do have a whole process. Like, they have to come to an informational event, because if you don't come and you don't really know what you're signing up for, you're going to be in shock when you understand what the commitment is. But they have to submit a video. And I was like, Eric, no, that's going to turn people away. Nobody wants to do a video. And he was right, and I was wrong. Go on.
I've got an audio.
Do you have a list? Do you have another list? What are some other things?
He saved it on his phone.
I had an audio recording. She says, Eric was right and I was wrong.
Yes.
And I've got it forever.
It was a great way to vet people, just to see how committed they are. I mean, sometimes it's not even what's on the video as much as it is, did you take the time to do the video? And if you're not going to take the time to do the video, you're not going to respond to emails.
I would like to watch all those videos. That would be awesome to go back and watch all the videos.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from that. And the other thing was we had to form a committee.
Yeah.
And, obviously Sameera was worried about that because we wanted to schedule a meeting at the prospect's office.
Right. Yeah.
Because that process of scheduling the appointment and then going there.
Oh, yeah.
That would
that'd weed out 30% of the people.
You would be surprised. It really does.
We have people that just don't respond.
Yeah.
Or they make it so difficult. We're like,
right.
We've learned everything we need to know.
Exactly. And if they want it bad enough, it's going to be obvious. And if they don't, you're not going to be a fit. It's a commitment.
So we have a big event coming.
The all-member meeting. Yeah.
The big event. 30 years.
30 years.
Yes.
So that's got to be exciting to pull together.
It is. It is. Because, Richard, our president, and I both graduated in 94 from UT. So to think, so that's 30 years. It's been exactly, when EO Nashville was founded, which is kind of fascinating. But it's been so cool. And, I've been talking to Bill Kimberlin and trying to kind of sketch out a lifeline of EO. And it really is so interesting. For example, he talks about how he would schedule a board meeting and a forum meeting and event all on the same day, just because it was the same 8 people, which just cracks me up. But, hearing all the stories is fascinating, and just thinking through all the pivotal points that happened along the way. Like Catalyst. This will be our 14th year of Catalyst. And, it's kind of transitioning from Michael Burcham to Matt Charette. And I'm just thrilled to see Matt do this, and he's going to kill it. But, that has been such a pivotal point in EO's history. There's to me, probably nothing bigger. I mean, that really is it. We have added 100 Catalyst members into EO just since this past spring. And it's, by the way, not super easy. I mean, we've turned down a lot of Catalyst members too, because they're just not quite there. Or, we have higher qualifications for some types of businesses like construction, real estate, that kind of thing.
How was Catalyst born?
So let's see. So were you in that meeting? We were in a penthouse at Lowe's Vanderbilt Plaza having our board retreat.
I don't think I was.
And Clint Smith, who owned My Emma, was the president. And Dan Hogan and Benjamin Goldberg were on the board, among other people. We just had a really awesome board that year. We always have an awesome board. That's the thing. Like, I'm in love with every board every year. I really think it's the best one. But that one really was truly special. And we were just struggling over and over and over with, I'm into Safe Haven Family Shelter, homeless families. You might be into the Heart Association or Alzheimer's or whatever. And so part of what we were struggling with was, how do we give back to the community? And so we kind of kept coming back to, we need to give back in the way that we're most effective. Like, we are entrepreneurs, we need to help entrepreneurs. So that was a big thing. And then just turning down all these awesome entrepreneurs that were at 800,000, 900,000, the likes of Amy Tanksley and Bethany Newman and David Fredrickson. I mean, just rock star members who, or prospects who just weren't quite at that $1 million mark, but we wanted to help them. And Catalyst just was this perfect storm of, okay, so we have this need. We want to also give back. And guess what? There's this new Entrepreneur Center opening in town, and Michael Burcham was a member of EO. So we understood, what it was going to be and who he was. We interviewed him and another guy, and we were just blown away. And the rest is history. It's been phenomenal.
Was Accelerator a thing at that time?
It sure was.
Is this a sore topic?
No,
for you?
No. It's a great topic for me. Are you kidding? No, the Accelerator is the global version, but we felt like we could do it better, and we have.
Yeah, I think that is probably what makes Nashville so special. To hold their hand and allow other EO members to support them during that journey through Catalyst. Yeah, and so we really make the whole chapter invested.
That's the thing, and that's what makes Catalyst so unique. Like, there's lots of resources out in the Nashville community and all over the place for entrepreneurs, but Catalyst is unique because not only does it have all those amazing classes that, were curated by Michael and Matt and another one by Andy Bailey, but they get a mentor of an EO member who's been there, done that. And we're pretty darn good at matching mentors, by the way.
Yes.
And then, they get invited to lots of EO events. Like, you're not going to get invited. Nobody gets invited to an EO event. Even prospects don't get invited to EO events. Like, you have to be a member. Yeah. But Catalyst members get to do that. And then they get a year of forum as well. So it's such a unique program that nobody can touch. And the other thing is, and this was Matt Charette's brainchild, which is so simple and so brilliant, we kept struggling with, what do we do after that 18-month program? If they're not quite ready for EO, what do we do? And we've always encouraged people to get involved in the Entrepreneur Center. Like, just make sure you're a member there and stay part of that ecosystem no matter what. But we created Bridge for people that are just, done with Catalyst, not quite ready for EO, but are serious about that trajectory, and really strong companies that want to continue to learn and grow. And we have tripled the number of Bridge members just this past year. So we have 3 forums full of Bridge members that are, we're just going to handhold until we get them there. And it's pretty cool.
The program is so awesome that we've got EO members that audit the class and then inevitably end up moderating forums, which I did for 4 years. And so you end up getting to know the members of your Catalyst Forum. And I've still got relationships from the first time I did it, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
It's beautiful.
Try to find an entrepreneur in town that couldn't benefit from Catalyst. I mean, Bobby Frist, I mean, maybe he could teach Catalyst, but like, seriously, there's like no entrepreneur that's not going to benefit from those classes. And it is like drinking from a fire hose. It definitely is. But the cool thing is now we've created more classes, more time. So Matt's going to be able to really drill down and make sure you're super clear on how to apply it to your company. And he's bringing in different strategic alliance partners to do panel discussions or, just drill down further to make sure you're leaving with understanding exactly what to do with all that content you just learned.
One thing I want to talk about too is I think you do amazing events and that are transformational. And I think the best event that I think I've ever been to in terms of value is the 90s, the New 60 event.
Yeah.
And I think that was really powerful. And I have never had an experience of an event where so many people were talking about things they're changing.
Yeah.
About new commitments to health, a new awareness to health. Yeah. And it's become a buzz in EO. Yeah. So how did that event kind of transpire? Because knowing how these events happen, I think it would be powerful to know that we get to create these events.
Yeah.
With your help.
Yeah.
And so how did the 90s New 60 come about?
So for every area of the board, we have a committee. And we have a phenomenal learning committee. And so David Hornsby is on his second round as learning chair. And it was his passion project. He was really dead set on, we've got to do this. And he, knew we have phenomenal members that are experts, that we needed to kind of tap into their expertise. And we put it together. And it's funny, like we had, how many speakers? 8, 10, something like that. And by far the highest rated speakers were EO members because, they're just so well respected. They know their stuff and they're like uniquely equipped to share the information they did. And the cool thing is after that event, we now have at least about 100 people, I think, who are super interested in health and wellness. And so now it's like, okay, what are we going to do with all this interest? We're going to create a series of MyEO events just based on health and wellness that is going to be life-changing for a lot of people. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's good to know that we have EO members that can be supportive and they're spending a lot of their own energy out of no reward other than just sharing their knowledge. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I was having a conversation with, and this is the idea I'll throw in the podcast because I heard a lot of people have been talking about this. There's so many EO members that are being challenged with being a parent.
Yeah.
Navigating parenting, navigating kids that are wanting to be on their computers or on their phone the whole time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
No, in fact, we were having a budget call this morning and trying to plan out the learning calendar for the coming year. And we talked about, and I said, the way to provide value to these entrepreneurs is to help their kids. Those are the exact words that came out of my mouth. I have 3 boys, 16, 18, and 22. I need all the help I can get. Like, I have a mission in my madness. But, I mean, think about what all we could do for kids. Stuff like what you just mentioned. But then, like, Arnie and Steve Kernute's forum did something where they did job shadowing for all their kids, and they would go around to each member's business, and it was huge for them. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I want to do that for the whole chapter. Logistically, and there's some challenges to that, but I'm still not done with that idea. I want to figure that one out because it's huge.
Well, even before that, we get this opportunity to introduce our kids to other members. Have, like my daughter, worked for an EO member as an intern, and now works for an EO member, a former EO member,
right?
In her career. I mean, I would have killed for those sorts of opportunities when I was growing up.
Yeah. Well, just like you took my son to lunch, and I remember you were not having the best day. But that was such a, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to get ready for the highs and the lows. And, I think Sam has the, capability, but he needs the reality of some days are going to be great and some days are not going to be great. And, you got to be resilient.
What kind of advice, which I know we don't usually give advice, but what kind of experience share do you have for, let's say, a member that's listening to this podcast and maybe he feels like his form he's not getting the value that he used to get. How would you help navigate that for someone that feels like they need a pickup?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Andy Bailey's the one that tagged this. You have to own your own experience. You have to carry your own bag. In fact, we even had those little orange Velcro things for your suitcase when Andy was president that said own your own experience. So that's number one. But just like talk to your forum. Tell them what you're needing that you're not getting. And if you've tried everything and that group is not going to work for you, come and talk to me. Come and talk to Laura Miller. We've got 44 forums. There's another forum for you. And just tell us what you need. And sometimes people need a little break from forum. That's fine. Global has this graphic. It's a little busy, so I don't love putting it out there all the time, but it is pretty awesome. And it talks about, some people are here to learn. Some people are here to network. Some people are here to be better leaders. And there is a path, for everybody. But we also really respect seasons of life. I mean, we're our average age, I think, is 49. That's a busy season of life. So, what may be right for you right now maybe is wrong later, or, once you've sold your company, maybe you want to travel, and we've got all these amazing global opportunities to travel. It just kind of depends on what your values are at the time.
Well, have you noticed a change with entrepreneurs that sell their business?
Yeah, I snatch them up and put them on my board. Just kidding, kind of. But, it's interesting. A lot of people go through a big mourning season where their whole identity is really rattled. And, but the cool thing is we're so large, we have such a community of those people. And I'll always say, you need to talk to so-and-so, you need to talk to so-and-so. To just share your experience and like get some tips. And in fact, we're trying to put a forum together just of people who have either just sold or are contemplating selling, because that is a big, it's a gut punch.
Yeah.
Along with being fantastic and awesome and wonderful, there's a backside.
What does the path look like? You got Catalyst, you got normal EO. What happens when we start to get older? Are we going to get older? No, I'm not getting older.
You're only as old as you act, Robert.
Yeah. So, but what is there a beyond EO?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
BEO?
It can be anything you want it to be. I mean, we can put groups together of anything.
Yeah.
And we're going to focus more on tenured members this year. We put so much emphasis on new members, which is fantastic. But they're drinking through a fire hose, and they're trying to figure out what all these acronyms are, and what is NERV, and what is GLC, what does that even stand for, and this and that. And, they get a voucher to attend a global event. I think it's $1,000 now. I kind of feel like, let's take a little look at what we could do for tenured members who've been around a little more, and let's get them out and make them remember how cool this global organization is, because it is.
Speaking of NERV,
yes,
there's something about NERV that I think everybody should know. What should they know about NERV?
Well, I remember when we all went to Atlanta.
I knew this was coming up.
But it was a pivotal point for the chapter. It really was. And I don't remember exactly how many people we had, maybe 25, 30, something like that.
Yeah, it was a big crowd for us at that point.
Because we had that suite, and it was fun. But it was just a time for the chapter to really bond. It was almost like a little mini chapter retreat. But then you open your eyes to you walk in these big ballrooms full of entrepreneurs, and there's nothing like that energy. I mean, it's the best energy on planet Earth. And you're getting cool learning opportunities, awesome social opportunities, but just the connections you're making from people, and it's primarily people from Boston to Miami. But anybody in the world can attend NERV. That's just the main, group. But it's a phenomenal opportunity. We're taking the Von Lane bus down, which is that swanky leather recliner seat. situation. And it's going to be at the Omni, and it's going to be super cool. So if you have not gotten your tickets, you should.
In Atlanta
Yes.
this year.
Yes.
Back to where we came from,
Yes,
essentially.
and we've got a big crowd. And Richard's very committed, and he's excited to go. So
It's where we discovered that Brunswick and I are interchangeable.
Exactly. I was like, because you remember you were going to play Jason Isbell. I'm like, wait a minute, my husband's obsessed with this. You're like,
Right.
listen to this new song. I'm like, I hear it all the time.
We had a great time. It's a wonder we didn't get thrown out of that hotel.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, what I'm excited about is the bus ride. Just
It's
because
gonna
to
be
be
great.
in the same bus with people that we're not maybe never met before.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to be in the bus for what, 3.5 hours probably, and just the fact that it's the bus ride, you could go to nowhere
It's
and
the
it'd be
best.
fine because
Exactly.
we finally have an opportunity to meet somebody you don't know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of magic that happens in Forum, but when you get out of Forum and you go on a road trip
Yeah.
or you just hang out with other people outside your Forum, you really get to see the added value that's
Absolutely.
in EO. Have those in-depth 5% conversations.
100%. Do you remember the bus we took to Soldier for a Day?
I don't
You
remember
don't
if I
remember?
was I there?
Uh-huh. It was Johnny Depp had just filmed Pirates of the Caribbean part whatever. And his big old Hummer, huge limo thing picked us up because it was Bonnaroo and CMA Fest the same time we were trying to get a bus for being Soldier for a Day. And that's all I could find, but I had no idea it was going to have like skulls and crossbones. It was so cheesy, and I was mortified. But, it was fun. We were squished in there. You don't remember that?
I
Debbie
don't.
Gordon? And I made y'all do games all
I
the way
don't
there.
think I was
It
there.
was funny.
So here's a tough one.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of your tenure so far with EO? It doesn't have to be
Let's see.
specific with the story, but
Yeah.
generally, what was the most challenging piece?
So, I mean, the most challenging, but by far the most rewarding was 4 years ago. We had the tornado, and 19 of our businesses were substantially damaged. And Matt Charette, my buddy, had all 3 of his restaurants taken down. And by the way, he showed up for Catalyst Forum training like 3 days later. And this was right when COVID was suddenly a thing, and we were debating whether we should even have the training. And do we shake hands? Do we hug? Do we not? Do we wear a mask? I mean, this was on the tippity tip of COVID. And he walked in the door, and I didn't think he was coming. And I'm like, Matt, what are you doing here? And he looked me square in the eye, and he said, "Don't you take my joy away. Like, I want to be here." I'll never forget that. I was just so touched. And because he feels it deep, he is so committed to helping entrepreneurs all over this town. And we're so lucky to have him. But, then COVID hits, and it's like, it was just insane. I mean, it was complete insanity. And I'm really proud of the way EO stepped up. And I don't think people were getting that everywhere. Even in other EO chapters, a lot of people kind of shut down. And when I say we pushed the accelerator, I'm like, we were going 1,000 miles an hour and providing all the support from our strategic alliance partners. I mean, they became part of the fabric of who we are because they saved so many companies. It was amazing.
Is that where Exchange
Yeah.
came from?
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Because the learning events during that time were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because we were all panicked.
Yeah.
And so, okay, what can we do to help entrepreneurs? And we got to see each other at least
Right.
and learn things about how
Yep.
to get through this.
And what's PPP? And holy cow, what do you do with culture when they're all remote? And I mean, it was all brand new. And just, I hated Zoom before that. I was like, no, I don't Zoom. Yeah, I Zoom now. Guess what? I learned Zoom really quick. But, those breakout rooms, I mean, it's so simple, but it put people together. And, you would put people in a room and the tears would start flowing. And
Speaking of
loved
that, and maybe it's 2 years ago, there was a breakout room, and I got stuck with Eric.
aw.
and
Bless your heart.
and as soon as we got connected, I saw Eric, and I was like, "Dude, what's wrong?" And it was like very emotional. And when you mentioned that, it was because he had, something very traumatic happened to him, and it was like I could see it on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a deep deep conversation. And that's what actually really sparked a lot of love for you.
Well, and that's one of the things in EO that marks it as special is when you be careful when you ask somebody how they're doing.
Yeah.
You're likely you're going to get the full answer.
Yeah.
Because I just vomited up on him.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing
And then
about it. You're real all the time.
And we got closer together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You get to cultivate this. That's got to feel good.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
How do you have a forum? What do you?
I do not have,
Something
Colton,
like it.
I'm sorry. So it's funny. So Richard Muscardelli and I were talking about the board, and we were talking about, different boards have kind of behaved in different ways. And Richard's kind of touchy-feely, just like I am. So we love this stuff. And we decided, with the help of Anna Birch, who moderated the retreat, we're going to put together small groups within the board, in addition to your committee and your, trifecta of this and that. How about just another group of maybe 5 people who, whether it's just at the board meetings and, maybe 4 times a year for 30 minutes, or if you want to get together outside of the board meetings, you can do that. So we just are trying that this year, and we launched it a couple weeks ago. And so Colton is in charge of mine. So I have a feeling like it's hardcore. There were 10 texts on the way here about when are we going to schedule this meeting. So I'm really excited about it, though. I really am.
So what do you see in the future for EO? Like what is going to the next level for EO? What would it look like?
Aside from like $100,000 for this podcast budget,
Right,
I mean, other than that, what else?
We've got that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking more like private jets for EO. I was thinking like, like maybe a house or something like
or maybe like instead of recording in East Nashville, how about we go to, Hawaii or wherever?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yes.
You'll have people signing up left and right.
Yes.
It's funny. I remember when you were president, Eric, there was so much conversation, as you mentioned, about splitting the chapter. And when you get past 200, it changes all these dynamics. And you can't get past 250. And here we are at 355. And, keep in mind, we added a lot of people during COVID. I mean, we didn't stop. And that was our highest renewal rate ever, right in the middle of COVID. We were at like 96%. And the thing is, here we are at 355 and we're still thriving, and we're still so intentional about taking care of all these connections. Just Thursday, we just had a connection event, and, it was phenomenal just watching the lights go off of people, getting to know each other or getting deeper with people you already know. So we can do it. We can grow. We can continue to grow. We just added an engagement staff member. So half her time will be dedicated to SAPs and making sure they're engaged, and half will be working with EO members. And it might be, okay, Robert, so, tell me about the stage of life you're in right now and what types of things are you interested in? Oh, well, you should look at Global Speakers Academy and this and that, and really kind of tailor the experience for you a little bit more. So that, I think, I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, almost like a concierge service.
But that word makes me nervous, because then it's like, okay, I want, tickets to whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't want to get into the ticket business. But
but we do have a ticket business in EO. Everybody knows the underground story is we have this unique email. And when you have free stuff, you give it away, and then people can take advantage of those tickets.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's actually really cool.
There's someone giving away a ticket every week to something.
Absolutely. It's super cool.
Yeah.
But, the other thing, we can continue to grow, but quality is always going to trump quantity.
Yeah.
We are super protective of our Nashville culture. In fact, Amy Romero is our communications chair incoming. And she's phenomenal, and she's going to really dig into that. Like, okay, here's the global culture and the global mission and values and all that good stuff. But what locally do you buy into that 100%? Is there something additional? Like, who are you? How do you want to state who you are to make sure you're attracting the right members?
That's great.
And detracting the ones that are not right,
Yeah. Sameera, thank you. Thank you for all your
so
service.
welcome.
And thank you for joining us on our podcast today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So if you are in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're an entrepreneur, it may feel a little bit lonely. Did you know there's 355 amazing entrepreneurs with the support from Sameera and team? If you are interested in learning more about EO, you can visit eonashville.com and see how we help you navigate life through our forum experience, through our amazing events, and different ways to connect even outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Please visit eonashville.com. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.